Napoleon Hill, why most people never achieve wealth. Most people will never taste true wealth, not because they are undeserving, not because the universe has conspired against them, but because they never learn the laws that govern success. Wealth is not an accident. It is not a lottery ticket. It is not a prize handed down to the lucky few. Wealth is a state of mind before it is ever a number in a bank account. It is an inner empire long before it becomes an outer kingdom. Napoleon Hill discovered this truth while studying the titans of industry. Men like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison. They weren't born into palaces of gold. They built their fortunes from the raw materials of faith, vision, and relentless action. And yet, look around you. The vast majority of people never rise above survival. They chase paychecks. They cling to certainty. They shrink from risk. They live their lives as spectators, never daring to step into the arena where wealth is forged. Why? Because most people are prisoners of their own thoughts. They allow fear to dictate their choices. They trade the dream of abundance for the illusion of safety. They believe wealth is for others, but not for them. Here lies the first truth. You cannot achieve wealth with a poverty mindset. Poverty is not just the absence of money. It is the absence of vision, the absence of belief, the absence of courage. A man with a rich mind can lose everything and rebuild it. A man with a poor mind can inherit millions and squander it. History proves this again and again. How many lottery winners go broke within years? How many heirs waste their fortune in a single generation? Wealth cannot survive where the soil of the mind is infertile. But on the other hand, Henry Ford was an uneducated farm boy. Edison had barely 3 months of formal schooling. Carnegie began as a factory worker, earning $1.20 a week. They had nothing but their minds, and they turned those minds into gold mines. So, if most people never achieve wealth, it is because they never mastered the first law. The mind is the starting point of all riches. What you think about consistently, you become. What you believe deeply, you attract. What you imagine vividly, you move toward. But most people think about bills, fear, problems, and lack. And so they multiply those conditions. They focus on surviving the week, not building the future. They focus on what they cannot do instead of what is possible. They focus on obstacles, not opportunities. Understand this: your dominant thoughts are architects. They design your destiny whether you are conscious of it or not. If you think in limitations, you will live in limitations. If you think in abundance, you will walk toward abundance. Edison thought of light when the world was content with candles. Ford thought of an automobile for the common man when the world was content with horses. Carnegie thought of steel cities when others thought only of wages. Their thoughts were bold, unreasonable, impossible, until they became reality. And this is where most people fail. They do not dare to think big. They lower their desires to match their doubts. They water down their dreams to fit the opinions of others. They laugh at visionaries and worship mediocrity. They reject the very seed that could have transformed their lives. Wealth demands faith, not blind faith, but faith backed by action. Faith that says, I will persist until I win. I will build until the world cannot ignore me. I will endure the failures, the ridicule, the setbacks, because I know that my mind fixed on its purpose, is stronger than any temporary defeat. But faith without clarity is wasted. Here lies another reason most people never achieve wealth. They do not decide what they truly want. Ask the average person what their financial goal is, and you'll hear vague wishes. I want to be rich. I want to make more money. I want to live better. These are not goals. These are cloudy desires without form, without power. Carnegie did not say, I want to be rich someday. He declared, I will spend the first half of my life building wealth and the second half giving it away. That is clarity. That is purpose. That is a mind that knows its destination. Most people drift through life like ships without a rudder. Wherever the wind blows, they follow. They never chart a course, so they never arrive at greatness. They settle for jobs they hate because they fear to declare what they truly want. They silence the voice of desire, and in its place grows the voice of mediocrity. But those who achieve wealth are ruthless about clarity. They write their goals, they see them, they affirm them, they breathe them until every fiber of their being believes in them, and then they take action again and again until the invisible becomes visible. Wealth is not luck. Wealth is clarity plus persistence. And clarity begins with one courageous decision. What do you want? You see, wealth does not answer to the vague. It answers to the precise. The universe, life itself, responds to clarity the way a seed responds to sunlight. But most people never plant the seed. They scatter it on rocky ground. They water it once, then abandon it when results don't appear instantly. They forget that every oak tree begins as an invisible idea, nurtured in silence before it pierces the soil. This is why discipline becomes the silent companion of wealth. Discipline is the bridge between intention and manifestation. It is the hand that waters the seed long before the sprout is visible. And yet, most people run from discipline, confusing it with restriction. They believe discipline is chains, when in truth, discipline is freedom. The freedom to live on your own terms, the freedom to command your destiny instead of submitting to it. Look at Henry Ford. Do you think he stumbled into the assembly line by accident? No. He obsessed, he tested, he failed, and then tested again. Day after day, year after year, until the system that changed the world emerged from his mind. That was discipline. Thomas Edison endured 10,000 failed experiments before the light bulb, 10,000 nights of disappointment. But discipline held him in the laboratory until the night the world turned from darkness to light. Now consider the majority, the ones who give up after the first setback, the ones who declare a dream on Monday, quit by Friday, and by next month have abandoned it altogether. They treat failure as final instead of as feedback. They treat discomfort as punishment instead of proof that they are growing. And so they retreat into the arms of mediocrity, where it is safe, where it is comfortable, where dreams go to die. Do you understand now why most people never achieve wealth? It is not because wealth is reserved for the chosen few. It is because most people cannot bear the weight of persistence. They want the crown without the battle. They want the harvest without the planting. They want the mansion without the bricks. But listen closely. Wealth is not built in bursts of inspiration. Wealth is built in the quiet repetition of disciplined action, day after day, while the rest of the world is sleeping. Wealth is forged in those invisible hours when no one applauds you, when no one believes in you, when only your faith carries you forward. That is where fortunes are born. And yet, discipline without vision is blind. This is the next great failure of the masses. They have no compelling vision. They work jobs they despise, not because they chose them, but because life forced them. They live each day reacting instead of creating. They climb ladders, leaned against walls they never chose, and when they reach the top, they wonder why they feel so empty. Wealth is not only money. Wealth is purpose. Wealth is meaning. Wealth is the fulfillment of a vision so powerful that it pulls you forward like gravity. Andrew Carnegie was not obsessed with steel. He was obsessed with building a future, with shaping the growth of a nation. Walt Disney was not obsessed with cartoons. He was obsessed with creating worlds where the impossible felt possible. Vision lifted them beyond the ordinary, and wealth followed as a natural consequence. But what do most people see? They see only the next paycheck. They see only the weekend. They see only the small horizon of their present struggle. And so, they never lift their eyes to the greater vision that could ignite their lives. Without vision, discipline becomes drudgery. Without vision, action becomes meaningless repetition. Without vision, wealth remains out of reach, because wealth is the reward of those who dare to imagine beyond their circumstances. Consider Abraham Lincoln, born in a log cabin, self-educated by the flicker of a fire. He had no reason to believe he could rise above poverty, but he carried within him a vision of unity, a belief that he could hold a fractured nation together. That vision pulled him forward through ridicule, through failure, through defeat after defeat, until destiny itself crowned him as one of the greatest leaders in history. Vision is the compass of the wealthy. Without it, you are lost. With it, even in darkness, you know the direction of your steps. And once you combine vision with discipline, you ignite a force that most people will never summon in their lifetimes. Still, there is one more reason most people never achieve wealth. Even if they have desire, even if they have discipline, even if they have a glimpse of vision, they lack resilience. They collapse at the first strong wind. They allow failure to break them instead of build them. But understand this, every failure contains within it the seed of an equal or greater success. Edison knew it. Ford knew it. Carnegie knew it. They did not fear failure. They harvested it. They examined it, learned from it, and used it as fuel. Every defeat was only a stepping stone, a teacher disguised as loss. Most people, however, interpret failure as the end of the story. They stop, they surrender, and they call it destiny. But resilience is what separates the wealthy from the ordinary. Resilience whispers, "This is not the end. This is a lesson. Rise again." And here is the tragedy. Millions of people live and die without ever discovering their true resilience because they never dared enough to fail. They never pushed far enough to find the edge of their endurance. They lived comfortably within the walls of security, never realizing that those walls are a prison built by fear. Wealth requires resilience because the path is steep, the nights are long, and the world will resist you before it rewards you. You will be tested, not once, not twice, but again and again, until your vision proves stronger than your doubt, your discipline stronger than your distractions, your resilience stronger than your failures. Resilience alone is not enough, for resilience without belief is like a soldier without a cause. You can endure 1,000 storms, but if you do not believe the sun will rise, you will eventually lay down and surrender. This is the next great tragedy of the majority. They do not believe. They say they want wealth, but in their hearts, they doubt it. They pray for abundance, but in their minds, they secretly whisper, "Not me, not now, not possible." And belief, my friend, is the gatekeeper. Without it, every effort collapses. Every seed withers. Every dream dies in the soil of hesitation. Napoleon Hill wrote that faith is the only known antidote for failure. Faith is not some mystical hope. It is the mind's ability to see the unseen, to hold the picture of the future so vividly that it demands manifestation. This is why so many fail. They believe more in their obstacles than in their opportunities. They believe more in their limitations than in their potential. They believe more in the words of doubters than in the whispers of their own spirit. Look again at Edison. 10,000 failures did not convince him he was incapable. Why? Because his belief in the outcome was stronger than the evidence of defeat. Belief transformed failure into feedback. Belief transformed setbacks into stepping stones. Without belief, Edison would have given up before the world ever saw the glow of electric light. Most people never achieve wealth because they refuse to train their belief. They leave it to chance. They allow the news, their environment, their family's opinions, and their past mistakes to dictate what they believe is possible. They become slaves to evidence instead of masters of vision. But here lies a powerful truth. Belief is not static. Belief can be trained. Every affirmation, every visualization, every conscious act of focusing on what you want strengthens the muscle of belief. And when belief and resilience walk hand in hand, nothing in the world can stop a determined mind. Yet belief must be coupled with adaptability, for the road to wealth is not straight. It twists, it bends, it tests. The world changes, industries evolve, methods fail. Most people cling to what is comfortable, even as the ground shifts beneath them. They resist change, and in doing so, they shackle themselves to the past. Andrew Carnegie built his empire not only on steel, but on adaptability. When processes improved, he embraced them. When better methods appeared, he shifted. Henry Ford was nearly destroyed because he resisted change. His beloved Model T, once revolutionary, became obsolete. It was only through eventual adaptation that his company survived. The wealthy are not rigid. They are fluid. They bend without breaking. They learn without ego. They adjust without hesitation. But what do most people do? They learn a skill once and stop growing. They hold on to old ways because change feels uncomfortable. They fear new ideas because it forces them out of their familiar routine. And so they become irrelevant, outdated, invisible. Adaptability is not optional. It is survival. The wealthy know this. When the winds of change blow, you cannot stand still. You must adjust your sails or you will be left adrift. And adaptability leads us to the final trait that separates the wealthy from the poor: the commitment to lifelong learning. For the mind is the true currency of wealth. Money can be lost, but knowledge multiplies. Money can be stolen, but wisdom cannot be taken. Money can vanish overnight, but the trained mind can rebuild it again and again. Carnegie once said that a man's greatest investment is in himself. Edison filled notebooks with ideas, learning, and experimenting every day. Disney consumed stories, myths, and art until his imagination overflowed into worlds we still visit today. Lincoln, with no formal schooling, devoured books by firelight, shaping himself into the leader who could guide a divided nation. Meanwhile, most people stop learning after school. They close the book, turn off the mind, and live the rest of their lives on recycled knowledge. They become stale water, stagnant, lifeless. They wonder why their lives do not grow, why opportunities pass them by, why wealth never arrives. Yet they never feed their minds with new knowledge, new skills, new ideas. Understand this: wealth flows to the curious. Wealth flows to the student who never graduates from life. Wealth flows to those who are humble enough to admit they don't know everything and hungry enough to keep learning. Most people never achieve wealth because they never achieve mastery of themselves. They lack the belief to persist, the adaptability to change, the humility to learn. They think wealth is something to chase, when in truth, wealth is something you attract by becoming the person worthy of it. For wealth is not just about money, it is about becoming. The fortune is not the millions, it is the transformation of the man or woman who created them. A man who earns a fortune without growth will lose it, but the man who grows into wealth will keep it, multiply it, and use it to create lasting impact. And this is why most people never achieve wealth. They seek shortcuts. They want money without growth, success without sacrifice, results without transformation. But life does not work that way. You cannot cheat the laws of success. You cannot plant corn and expect wheat. You cannot sow laziness and reap abundance. The wealthy know this. They pay the price in discipline, resilience, adaptability, and growth. They pay the price gladly because they know the reward is not only wealth, but freedom. And here is the ultimate truth. Wealth is not for the few, it is for the focused. It is not reserved for the chosen, it is reserved for the committed. The gates of abundance swing open only for those who dare to knock again and again, long after the world tells them to stop. The tragedy is that most people never even approach the gates. They stand at a distance, pointing fingers at those who entered, calling them lucky, privileged, blessed by fate. But in their quiet hearts, they know the truth. They never tried. They never demanded more from themselves. They never lit the fire of purpose within their soul. Napoleon Hill once declared, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Think of the power in those words. Conceive it, believe it, achieve it. That is the formula that built empires, ended wars, lifted humanity forward. And yet, most people dismiss it as too simple. They laugh at it, mock it, and return to lives of quiet desperation. But those who understand, those who dare to truly live this principle, they become unstoppable. They see their wealth long before it arrives. They build it first in the unseen, with thought, with faith, with discipline, with resilience, until the outer world has no choice but to conform to the inner vision. This is the law. This is the truth. And this is why most people never achieve wealth. They never honor the law. They bow to fear instead of faith. They trade vision for excuses. They abandon persistence for comfort. They silence the hunger that was meant to elevate them. But you, listening now, you are not most people. Deep within you, there is a voice that refuses to settle. A voice that whispers in the stillness of the night, you were meant for more. That voice is not lying. It is the spark of the infinite within you. It is the proof that you have greatness inside you. The question is not whether you are capable. The question is whether you will rise, whether you will dare to believe when no one else does, whether you will discipline yourself when distractions seduce you, whether you will persist when the world says quit, whether you will hold your vision when failure mocks you. For wealth does not come to the wishers. It comes to the warriors. It comes to those who are willing to pay the price, endure the test, and walk the lonely path of faith until their dream becomes reality. Remember Edison in the lab night after night. Remember Lincoln failing in election after election, yet standing tall when destiny demanded it. Remember Ford, mocked for his vision of a car for the masses. Remember Carnegie, starting as a poor immigrant boy with nothing but a dream. None of them had certainty. None of them had guarantees. What they had was belief, discipline, vision, and resilience. That is the blueprint of wealth. So why do most people never achieve it? Because they refuse the blueprint. They seek comfort, not growth. They chase shortcuts, not mastery. They surrender to fear, not faith. But you are here now, standing at the same crossroads that every great achiever once faced. On one side is the path of the majority: safety, excuses, mediocrity, regret. On the other side is the path of the few: faith, discipline, resilience, and ultimately, wealth. True wealth, the kind that transforms not only your life, but the lives of generations to come. The choice is yours. The opportunity is here. The time is now. Do not be like most people. Do not settle. Do not drift. Do not waste the gift of life by bowing to fear. Rise with vision. Stand with belief. Act with discipline. Endure with resilience. And wealth will not be a question of if. It will be a question of when. For wealth is not luck. Wealth is not chance. Wealth is the inevitable result of a mind that refuses to quit, a heart that refuses to doubt, and a spirit that refuses to be broken. This is the truth. This is the law. This is the way. And the world is waiting for you to prove it.